Information management and information production are not the same thing. That might sound obvious, but if it's so obvious, why do we keep getting it wrong? In my experience, we've spent years treating them as if they're the same thing, which comes at a cost. Projects are structured around the wrong people, decisions are made without the right input, and the information that gets produced, the information that somebody somewhere is relying on to operate and maintain an asset, isn't fit for purpose by the time it arrives. This isn't a debate about terminology. It has real consequences for how projects are set up, who gets involved, when they get involved, and whether the information they produce has any value by the time somebody actually needs to use it. So in this video, I want to draw the line clearly between these two functions. Because once you see them as separate, once you understand what each one involves and why they require different competencies, a lot of the problems we keep running into should start to make a lot more sense. Okay, let's start with information management. Information management happens at different levels and is a series of interrelated activities that are undertaken throughout organizations, projects, and appointments. At the organizational level, it's about defining who needs information, why they need it, what information they need, and when they need it. This is strategic. It's about understanding the purpose for which information is needed, not just during the design and construction, but throughout the asset's life cycle. So, starting with the end in mind. At the project level, it's about working out who are the best teams to produce the information needed, what information each team needs to produce, and ensuring that it meets the purpose for which it is needed. This is where you start to translate the asset owner's requirements into something that the teams can actually work with. And at the appointment level, whether that's an internal appointment like a work instruction or an external appointment like a contract, it's about determining who needs to produce what and by when, and agreeing on the best methods to produce it. Information management is the oversight. It's a thinking and planning that must happen before production can start, and yet it's the part we consistently skip. Those of you familiar with ISO 19650 will probably recognise this structure, but I think it's what often gets missed, even by people who know the standard well. It's just how much of the process sits within the management space upstream of production, and I'll come back to that later. So what do I mean by information production? Information production is the act of producing information for an intended purpose. And when I talk about information production, I mean acquiring it, generating it, maintaining it, coordinating it, checking it, reviewing it, approving it, authorizing it, and accepting it. It's all the production activities needed to prepare an information model and make sure that the information within it is accurate and fit for purpose. So it's not just about generating information. You'll also hear the terms like information exchange or delivery in relation to production. And I've got some opinions about that terminology, but I'll save those for another video. So I'm not going to go through each of the activities individually. We've got plenty of courses on that if you're not familiar with them. But the point is that production is broader than what most people think. And each of the production activities require its own competencies. For example, coordinating information across teams is a very different skill to checking it against the information standard. And reviewing it against the requirements requires a different mindset to generating it. You get the point. These are all production activities, but they're not all the same activity. So why does everybody confuse them? Well, partly because they both sit within what ISO 19650 defines as the information management process. So that naming is part of the problem. It suggests that the process is only about management. It isn't. It contains both management and production activities. That's not to say that production is any less important. What's being produced matters, but if the management is wrong, it doesn't matter how good the production is, you're still producing the wrong thing. Think of it like conducting an orchestra. Before an orchestra plays anything, someone has to decide what's being performed, who's playing which part, and how fast, how loud, and how it should all come together. That's management. The musicians then play their parts, they all know how to play their instruments, but what management does is tell them what to play and how to play together. That's production. And a conductor doesn't tell the musicians how to play their instruments, that's their expertise. But without the conductor, 30 talented musicians are just making a noise. So the relationship is collaborative, not hierarchical. And I think that's an important point. The conductor and the musicians need each other. One without the other doesn't work. But they're doing different things, and we should acknowledge that. Now bring that into a built environment context. Before anyone opens their favourite production tool, before a single line is drawn or a word written, there are decisions to be made, planning to be done, and teams to be mobilised. That's the information management bit. When the team know what they need to produce, how they need to produce it, and when they need to produce it, that's when the information production bit starts. Or at least that's when it should start and not before. Or take an infrastructure asset. Maybe it's a sensitive asset like a train signaling system that requires careful control over who can access certain information. Somebody must determine what information is needed to maintain the asset safely and efficiently, who needs access to it, and how sensitive information is to be protected. That's the information management. Once that's in place, teams can then get on with producing the information. Different functions, different skills, different people, different timing, same process. That's the bit we keep missing. And here's the bit that still surprises people. Information management isn't just for information managers. Now, I'm conscious that the term information manager probably means different things to different people, but for the purposes of this video, when I say information manager, I simply mean the person responsible for overseeing the information management activities, whatever that job title is within your organization. And I'll cover the proliferation of titles in another video. So, the information manager may oversee the process, but many of the activities involve people from across the organization who would never describe themselves as information managers. For example, asset managers, project managers, risk managers, lawyers, and HR managers. If your role involves deciding what information is needed, planning the production of information, or ensuring that the organization has the capability and capacity to manage and produce it, you're involved in information management whether you realize it or not. And that's one of the reasons why this distinction is so important. If you think information manager is just one person's job, the information manager's job, then all of those other functions abandon their responsibility, and then ultimately the process suffers. And I've seen this play out on projects of all shapes and sizes. The information manager is appointed, everybody breathes a sigh of relief, and then the rest of the organization goes back to pretending that information isn't their problem. But the information manager can't define what information the asset owner needs. Only the asset owner can do that. They can't determine the risk profile of the project. That's the risk manager. They can't decide what contractual mechanisms should be used to enforce information requirements. That's procurement and legal. All those people are carrying out information management activities, whether they see it that way or not. And then there's the organizational side. The people responsible for making sure that the organization actually has the capability and capacity to manage and produce information in the first place. That's leadership. That's the people who hire, the people who invest in education, who build a culture. Now, if you don't have the right people with the right competencies in the right roles, then none of this works. That's not the information manager's job either. That's an organizational responsibility. And yet, despite everything I've just described, most organizations still treat management and production as one function. They appoint somebody skilled in producing information, give them the title of information manager, and expect them to handle everything upstream as well. The title changes, but without the right support and education, the person in that role is still doing what they've always done, production. Now, the challenge is that being awesome at production doesn't make you good at management. They're very different skills. Somebody who spent their career mastering modern methods of production like BIM is not automatically the right person to govern an information strategy. We just keep pretending that they are. This isn't about building a wall between the two. Someone who understands production will be better at information management because of it, and someone who understands management will be better at information production because of it. But they are different functions, and treating them as interchangeable helps no one. And I think that's worth reflecting on. If you've ever wondered why the management side of information feels like it gets neglected on projects, why the information requirements aren't clear, why the standards aren't defined, why nobody seems to know who's responsible for what, then this is often the root cause. The person responsible for management is too busy doing production. The urgent often crowds out the important. And here's the part that should concern anyone working in this space. 3/4 of the activities within the information management process happen before production even begins. And the vast majority of those are assigned to the asset owner. Yet, it would appear that many asset owner organizations haven't yet developed the capability or capacity to fulfill their part of the process. Now, this isn't a criticism, it's a failure of our industry to explain what's expected of them and why their involvement matters so much. But until that changes, teams will be left trying to produce information for people that they've never spoken to, about an asset they may never see, to a standard nobody's defined. And this isn't work that could wait until a project starts. Much of it needs to happen before a project's even initiated, defining what information the organization needs, why it needs it, and to what standard. If an asset owner tries to establish all of that whilst the project's in flight, it's already too late. The teams are producing information without clear direction, and no amount of involvement at that point will fix what should have been defined upstream. That said, being in the room when the project decisions are being made still matters. If you're an asset owner and you want information you can actually use, information that helps you to make better decisions or stops you making the wrong ones, then you need to be involved in management from the start. Not briefed afterwards, not consulted as an afterthought, in the room. But if you're watching this thinking, well, that's an asset owner's problem, not mine, then think again. Whether your work involves managing information or producing it, the distinction between the two functions is important. They are two separate functions within the same process, each containing fundamentally different activities that require different competencies. Both essential, neither works without the other. And the sooner we stop treating them as the same thing, the sooner we can start getting information that is genuinely fit for purpose. The distinction isn't about creating a divide, it's about creating a partnership. When those who manage and those who produce understand each other's functions, respect each other's expertise, and work together rather than one person trying to do both, the information gets better for everybody. I know this from experience. I started in production, on the drawing board in fact. That's where I built my skills, and I was pretty good. But as I got more involved in the management side, I realised that's where my passion was. The strategic thinking, the governance, the upstream work that shapes everything that comes after it. And for a while, I tried to do both, and I think most of us do. You don't want to let go of something that you're good at. But what I found was that I was struggling to be my best at both. Not bad, not failing, just not at my best. And that's not good enough when the information people are relying on needs to be fit for purpose. So I made the call. I stepped away from production and committed to management. It wasn't easy, but it was the right decision for me. And that's why I think this question matters so much. So ask yourself, which of those two functions are your competencies best suited to? Are you a specialist in one or a generalist across both? And when you have your answer, ask yourself whether that aligns with your current role. If it doesn't, well, that's probably worth thinking about too. If you found this interesting, then please subscribe. And if you know someone who might get value from it, please share. I also write a newsletter on information management. So if that sounds like your thing, then the link to sign up is in the description below. Thanks for watching.